of what I was thinking about was constructing these animal collars and harnesses and leashes because we had just gotten a puppy. And I was feeling this way that we have to train animals to fit into the human world, and we have to train humans to fit into the human world. Our animal nature is, for many people, has to be restrained to fit into the institution of marriage. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's important to restrain a dog and to teach a dog to fit into the human world, and maybe just as important to train humans. I'm going to make a series of these. These people relate to these. A lot of people do feel really restrained by marriage. Other people feel a release in the process of being married, and I like that dichotomy. I'm interested in this both in the restraint and then that sort of release that takes place for some people, and also fossilized sense that people have about marriage when they go into it. They're entering marriage with this kind of antiquated sensibility of its glamour and romanticism. The reality is another thing once you're in it. So I was interested in kind of capturing that moment of, this moment of fantasy and belief in that moment of when you're wearing your veil and walking down. And then it's also kind of wings for the sense of release that some people have going to marriage. This one's done with rabbit skin glue. I'd like to do it with other materials that will hold it in place. This is constructed out of a bridesmaid dress. I kept the structure of the dress intact and not pull it apart entirely, except for I cut off the top. And then because this is a metaphor. This is a bird cage, obviously, and I was thinking about the little girl who is witnessing this procession and this fantastical theater of a wedding, and that the beginning of her consciousness kind of being put into the cage of what a marriage is. There's these little birds. Everything's constructed out of that little bridesmaid's dress. A bit of this work has this voyeuristic quality, which is both a metaphor for how a wedding is. This is the screen, and projected into this is the grotto, with me entering and deconstructing the dress on my body, cutting off the same dress, and ending as Venus de Milo, where the whole first original artwork of love. The quality of looking up underneath the skirt and having the grotto meet right in the crotch. This is a bit subversive to take apart a dress, to look up a dress, and to cut off a dress. I wanted to deconstruct the dress as a metaphor for the deconstruction of the institution of marriage. It seems like as a society we're obsessed with the deconstruction of this institution. Comedians make lots of references to wife jokes, and we're almost more interested in how it's falling apart as opposed to how it's being held together. And I found that curious. And it was interesting choosing a wedding dress because everything around us has a narrative, but certain things have a huge narrative. They have a huge emotional charge. And everybody that looks at a wedding dress in this particular culture will have some emotional association, maybe negative or repellent, or maybe kind of fantasy. And I loved playing with that emotional ground already being set and seeing where I could go, and then watching people's reaction. People's reaction to it is that it goes to another place based on their own kind of narrative around this object. So that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in taking objects, looking at them, creating a sculpture that reveals something about this object's role in society, either anthropologically, historically, economically, emotionally, and revealing that through the reconstruction, having a form that reveals something.